This video covers filling out the observation area and the context area in a PDS4 label. In this video, we will cover when to include an observation area in your label, when to include a context area in your label, and what classes and attributes are required in each area. We will be using the Oxygen XML editor to view the label files. Feel free to pause or go back in the video at any time. Every observational data product produced in an investigation requires an associated product observational label. Required within the label is the class Observation Area. Here is where you will describe the key features of the observation. Context area is very similar to the observation area and is used to describe things that are relevant to the label but aren't directly involved with a particular observation. Context area can be included in various types of labels, including document, collection, and bundle labels. The primary difference between observation area and context area is that context area has no required classes. For the remainder of this video, any time a class is described as required, that only applies to observation area. However, if you do include certain classes, those classes still have required attributes even for context area. What information you decide to include in either your observation area or your context area depends on the investigation. Some examples of information that could be included are when the data was collected, what kind of processing was used, the wavelength observed, the name of the instrument used, and the target observed. To give further description of what the context area and/or observation area classes and attributes pertain to, an optional comment can be added. Time coordinates is a required class in observation area and is a common inclusion in context area. There are two required attributes for time coordinates, start date time and stop date time. The format is in Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, and must have the Z at the end. In observational label files, time coordinates defines the beginning and end of the observation in question, such as what time a camera shutter opened and closed. In context area, time coordinates is usually included to give the time frame of an entire collection. If it is a collection of observations, then it would mark the beginning of the first observation and the end of the last observation in the collection. If needed, other time measurements may be included: local mean solar time, local true solar time, and solar longitude. An optional but highly recommended inclusion in observation and context areas is the primary results summary. This class contains attributes that help in high-level searches across the PDS archive. While it is optional in general, it is required in all observational data collection labels to supply at a minimum the purpose and processing level for the collection data products. Our examples include the required attributes purpose and processing level and the optional class Science Facets. Both purpose and processing level have a list of defined standard values. For purpose, these are calibration, checkout, engineering, navigation, observation geometry, science, and supporting observation. For processing level, they are raw, partially processed, calibrated, derived, and telemetry, each of which is related to a CODMAC processing level. Science Facets has two optional attributes, wavelength range and domain, and a required attribute, discipline name. Each of these attributes has a list of available values on the Standard Values Quick Reference page at the PDS website. The discipline you select also determines possible values for two additional optional attributes, Facet 1 and Facet 2. Facets serve as high-level categorizations of your data. For example, if your discipline is flux measurements, your data can be categorized as either photometry or polarimetry in Facet 1. The next class included in our examples is Investigation Area. This class is required in observational labels and is used to identify the mission or observing campaign that produced the data and/or documentation described by the label. There are two required attributes, name and type, and one required class, internal reference. Every mission or observing campaign should have a label that describes the details of the investigation. This label is describing what PDS calls the context object for the investigation. The name attribute within investigation area should match the name of the related investigation context object. Type must have one of the four following values: mission, observing campaign, individual investigation, or other investigation. This value should also match the type value in the related investigation context object. The related context object must be referenced one more time in internal reference. The two required attributes are lid reference and reference type. The lid reference is the logical identifier for the context object. For observation area, the reference type has to be data to investigation. For context area, the value depends on the type of label. In our example, which is a label for a collection, it is collection to investigation. For more information on context objects and choosing which reference type to use, talk to your node representative. You can also include an optional comment in internal reference if needed. Required for observation area, the Observing System class documents instruments, hosts, or telescopes associated with the investigation. Though not included here, you can add the optional attributes name and description under Observing System. Use these to include known search terms that may not be included otherwise. The Observing System component class is required and can be repeated as needed. In our observation area example, there are two instances listed, one for the spacecraft, Deep Impact, and one for the instrument on the spacecraft, the CCD camera. Within Observing System component, there are two required attributes, name and type, and one optional attribute, description. If there is an associated context object for this component, the name should match with that context object, and you must include an internal reference to link that context object. In both the observation area and the context area examples, all of the components listed have context objects associated with them, and therefore all have internal reference listed. While PDS highly recommends that all relevant references be included in your PDS archive, if there is useful information permanently available outside the PDS that you would like to reference, use an external reference class here. External reference has two optional attributes, description and DOI, and one required attribute, reference text. Including a DOI is recommended if one exists. The value for reference text should be a complete bibliographic citation for a published work. The last required class in observation area is target identification. In observation area, the target included here is the object observed. For context area, this class associates the data with the object of the investigation. Usually this will be a natural solar system object such as a comet, planet, asteroid, moon, etc. Target identification has two required attributes, name and type, and two optional attributes, alternate designation and description. Name should be the full formal name of the target. Your node representative can provide you with the exact format of the name of your target. Type must come from a list provided in the Standard Values Quick Reference available on the PDS website. Alternate designation may be useful if the target has other designations such as a nickname. List as many as you need. These can be helpful search terms if your target is commonly called other names. Use the description attribute to add more search terms as needed. Similar to Observing System component and investigation area, if there is a PDS product that provides additional information about your target, provide an internal reference that cites it here. Again, the lid reference and type are required. The type should be data to target for observation area. For context area, the type value will vary depending on the type of reference. Our example has the value document to target. There are two remaining optional classes for observation area and context area, mission area and discipline area. Add a mission area class to reference any relevant mission dictionaries. More information on local dictionaries is available on the PDS training site or through your node representative. Use the discipline area class to reference any relevant discipline dictionaries. In our observation area example, the discipline area is used to reference the display dictionary. The display dictionary ensures any image data is viewed properly. See the PDS training website document filling out the display dictionary class for more detailed information. Our example includes a local internal reference that identifies which image in the label we are describing, and display direction which describes in which direction each axis of the image must be read. Thank you for watching our video on filling out the observation area and context area of a PDS4 label. In this video we learned when to include an observation area or a context area in your label and what classes and attributes are required in each area.